In my class, I teach how to use 6 different types of tools just for machine polishing paint. And I bring in multiple cars, all of them in dire need of one thing, and that's paint correction, polishing, and waxing. So not only do my students get to learn how to use 6 different types of tools, but they get to work on some really amazing cars like you see here today. And that just makes for a really fun learning experience. Now, the first thing you want to do before you do any kind of polishing of the paint is you want to start with a clean car. Now, we've already used a rinseless wash on this to remove all the loose dirt. The next thing you want to do is you want to inspect the paint, and you want to do this 2 different ways. The first way, you want to feel the paint, and what you're checking for is any kind of bumps or surface texture. Now, when I feel this paint, I can feel something on there, and I'm going to show you a little secret detailers use to really inspect the paint, and that's called the baggie test. All you're going to do is take a normal sandwich baggie like this, place it on your hand, and then re-inspect the paint just the same way you did it with your bare hand. And what's going to happen is your eyes are going to light up because you're going to go, wow, now I can really feel the contaminants on the paint. Now, how this works is this thin film of plastic, it increases your sensitivity so you can detect contaminants that you couldn't detect with just your skin alone. And these contaminants can be things like industrial fallout, airborne pollution, tree sap mist, overspray paint is a real common problem. And if those things land on your paint and they're not removed in a timely manner, what they do is they form such a strong bond to the paint that they don't come off when you wash the car. And that's when we need to use a mechanical means of removing the contaminants. And that's where detailing clay comes into play. And the thing about detailing clay is you want to remove the contaminants first to get them off the surface and out of the way, and then we're going to machine polish and go for the defects that are actually in the paint or below the surface. Now let me show you how to use detailing clay the correct way. First, when you buy detailing clay, normally it comes, well, it looks like a bar of soap in a plastic wrapper. So you want to take it out of the wrapper, and it starts out looking like this, but don't use it like this. What you want to do is take and knead it till it looks like a pancake or a wafer. And it should be large enough to fit across the fingers of your hand. And just take and use your fingers and your thumbs and knead this, just like you see me doing here. And by doing it this way, you can cover a larger area and get that claying process over so you can go to the next step. There, just like that. Now look, when I place that on my hand, it fits across the 4 fingers of my hand, and my fingertips are placed just beyond it, so I'm not pressing my fingertips exactly into the paint because that'll force a hole into the clay. Then you got to stop and re-knead. So just place it just like you see me doing it right there. Now the next thing you want to do is grab some clay lube. And for this, I'm using the Pinnacle Clay Lube and the Pinnacle Ultra Poly Clay, and this is a fine grade clay. Completely safe to use, still does a great job. Now I'm going to clay half this hood, and I'm going to turn the clay over, and this will kind of be an indicator as to what type of contaminants were on here. Now when you're doing this, you want to make sure you use plenty of lube. And that way your clay will glide over the surface as it's removing the contaminants. And then after you do a section, you want to wipe this residue off before you move on to the next section. Okay, so this is the way this works. I'm just going to bring this down, and I'm just going to start rubbing this back and forth. And I got to tell you, as I'm rubbing this clay over the paint, I can feel it kind of drag. But as the contaminants start to come off, it starts to glide effortlessly, and that's an indicator to me that I've removed the contaminants in that area. And now I'm ready to move on to a new section. One of the things I tell car guys all the time is they're really common for them to have contaminants on their cars because a lot of times they're out in the garage and they're working on a project that involves some type of paint, and accidentally they'll get overspray paint on a car like this Chevelle. And so it might be an accident, but what the contaminants do is they create a texture on the paint, and it diminishes the gloss. And so to really get a high gloss finish, the first thing you want to do is start by getting all the contaminants off so the surface is smooth, because gloss comes from a smooth surface. Okay, so I've got half this hood clayed. And let's just go ahead and pull the clay over and take a look and see what's on there. Okay, so as you can see, there's all kinds of contaminants on the clay. They were on the paint, now they're on the clay, so we've removed these, and now we're ready to wipe off the residue so we can move on to the next step. And the way clay works is some people think it works because it's sticky. And since it's sticky, it pulls the contaminants off. But that's actually not how it works. The way clay works is there's actually an abrasive in the clay. And when you rub the clay over the paint, that abrasive, it abrades off whatever those contaminants are, and because the clay is sticky, it pulls them onto itself. And that's why as you're working around the car, periodically you want to take the clay, knead it into itself. I like to twist it like taffy and then form it into a new patty before you start the new section. And that way you bury those contaminants into the clay so you don't rub them over the rest of the car. Okay. So this side of the hood has now been clayed. Now I can come back and I can do the baggie test again, just as a way to inspect to make sure I've got all the contaminants off the paint. And that feels smooth and slick. And that's how paint should start before you start machine polishing it. So the first thing you want to do before you machine polishing it is inspect for above surface contaminants, and if you find them, remove them using detailing clay. Now, the next way I want to inspect the paint is I want to use my eyes and visually inspect the paint. And what I'm looking for are below surface defects. So things like swirls, scratches, water spots, and oxidation. Now you can use bright overhead sunlight if the car's outside and if you have a sunny day, or here is a really cool tool. This is called a swirl finder light, and it acts like the sun. It will reveal all the below surface defects to my eyes simply by holding it over the paint. And again, this car may look shiny, and it is, but once you get this swirl finder light on here, you can see all the swirls. They just jump out at your eyes, and I can tell exactly what I need to do in order to remove them. I'm gonna have to machine polish this paint. So that's the swirl finder light. Okay, the next thing you wanna do is what I call a test spot. And I've been teaching this for years, and this is really important. What you wanna do is you wanna dial in the process that you wanna use over the entire car. But you want to check it first to one small area. You want to make sure the compound you're using, the pad you're using, the tool you're using, and your technique, the way you're running that tool, is actually removing the defects to your expectations to one small area before you buff out the rest of the car. Because if something's not right, perhaps the compound or the pad isn't right for the paint you're polishing on, and it may be removing the defects but causing some other defect, you certainly wouldn't want to do that to the rest of the car. So that's why I teach people to do a test spot. It's crucial to dial in your system and prove it before buffing out the rest of the car. Now, to remove these swirls, I'm going to show you how to use a tool called the Porter Cable 7424 XP. Now, when you purchase this tool, it comes with a stick handle. It comes out the side, you can put it on either side. What I show people is to take the handle off and throw it away and use the tool without it. And here's why. First, if you're new to machine polishing, you'll have a tendency to put your hand on the handle and push down, and that causes you to buff crooked. That's going to keep the pad from rotating. The other reason is sometimes when you're buffing a curved car, this handle actually end up touching or scratching the paint. So what I like to do is just go ahead and take it off and never use it again. And I think once you try this tool without the handle, you'll agree. And when the handle's gone, here's what that does. It forces you to put your hand right on the top of the head of the polisher, and that's right where you want it, and then you put equal pressure down equally the entire time you're polishing. So not only does it make you work safer, but it actually helps you to use better technique, and that's important when using this type of tool. Now, this type of tool is the safest tool there is to machine polish, and let me show you why. It uses what's called a free floating spindle bearing assembly. That's the technical term for this part I'm turning right here. So this is not direct drive, and it gets its power by this reciprocating weight right here. So when you turn this up to a high speed, this gets spinning really fast, and that means that maintains the pad rotation. But if you hold it at an angle, you get into a curve, a high point, or if you're holding it crooked, the pad will quit rotating, and that's the safety feature. It makes the tool really safe. It means you got to use good technique, and that's what you learn in my class and today while I show you how to use this tool. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to attach the backing plate. And I'm going to show you something about the backing plate. When you buy a backing plate, it comes with a rubber nut, and the rubber nut does two things. It protects the threads when you're not using the backing plate, because you can buy other backing plates different sizes for different size pads. So you might not always have the same pad on. So the rubber nut protects the threads. It also holds the compression washer on. And you don't want to lose this. And here's what happens. If you're not careful and you hold this thing upside down, that washer could fall off onto the ground. And if you don't catch it, you'll put this backing plate onto the tool, and the rivets or the brads here that hold the assembly together will hit the counterweight, and it'll do two things. One, it'll make a horrible racket. You should pick up on that. The other thing it's going to do is it's going to create a lot of heat with that metal to metal contact, and that's going to be bad for the tool, and it's bad for the backing plate. So just remember, when you're putting on backing plates, don't lose the compression washer. It's actually a fiber washer that compresses, so there's no metal to metal contact between the backing plate and the tool. Now this is called a PC wrench. You're just going to come in here and stick this onto this free-floating spindle bearing assembly, spin the backing plate on, and then tighten it down till it's snug. That's all you got to do to put the backing plate on. Here's another real important tip, and I teach this in my class. Been teaching this to guys for years now. Take a permanent Sharpie marker and look at your backing plate, and just come down here and put a mark in one section on the backing plate. And the reason you want to do this is because it makes it easy for your eyes to monitor pad rotation. Without the mark, it's just a big yellow blur as that thing's rotating, or whatever color your backing plate is. But once you put that mark on there, it's going to make it real easy for your eyes to monitor pad rotation. And if you don't see the pad rotating, you know something's wrong. Either your technique, you don't have the speed setting at the right level for what you're trying to do, maybe you're holding it crooked. So that little mark helps you to tweak your technique and perfect it. Okay, so that's our tool. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about some compounds and polishes for actually working on the paint on this car. Now I have three different types of pads here. These are 5.5-inch flat pads, and every pad company has their own color scheme, and we go over that in the class, and today I'll just tell you what these are. This orange pad is a cutting pad, and what I show people to do is first compress it, and you'll find your cutting pads are fairly stiff. Also, take your hand and draw it across the face of a clean pad, and you'll feel the sharpness of the foam. Okay, so that's for cutting. This next pad I have here is a polishing pad, and again you can press it between your hands, and you can feel it's quite a bit softer than the cutting pad. And again, just draw your clean hand across the face, and it's not quite as sharp as the cutting pad. And this last pad I have here is a very soft, very flexible, no sharpness at all, and this is for a machine applying the wax. So I'm going to show you how to compound, polish, and machine apply a wax with the Porter cable using these three pads. And for the chemicals back here, I have the Pinnacle Advanced Compound, the Pinnacle Advanced Swirl Remover, and the Pinnacle Advanced Finishing Polish. And here's what these are. This is an aggressive compound, this is a medium cut polish, and this is a fine cut polish. So with these three products, I could tackle anything, including if I had a wet sanding project and I had to remove the sanding marks, to just light touch up on a brand new car. You have the selection here with these three products to tackle anything. And one of the things I teach in my class is the concept of using the least aggressive product to get the job done. And the reason this is important is because the clear coat finish on your car naturally is thin. On a brand new car, right off the dealership lot, the factory finish is a roughly 2 millimeters thin, okay? So take a look at a 3M Post-it note. That's about 3 millimeters thin. So that means the clear coat finish on your car is thinner than a Post-it note. And it's for that reason you don't want to just jump into a paint polishing product using the most aggressive product if a less aggressive product will do the job. Because that way you can still remove the defects, but leave more paint on the car, so the paint job will last over the service life of the car. Make sense? Okay, so to do this, what I want to do is, of course, I want to test the least aggressive product. And I know the fine cut polish really isn't going to have enough cut because this thing has some serious swirls and scratches. Yet, I don't know that this medium cut polish won't do the job. So I'm going to start out showing you how to do a test spot using the least aggressive product. In this case, it's going to be the medium cut polish, the swirl remover. And if that doesn't work, then I'll do another test spot using the compound. And between the two, I can inspect the results and gauge which product I want to start with. After I decide that, then I'll test the finishing polish to make sure it looks perfect, and then we machine wax the car. So most cars like this are a 3-step process. You're going to use something to remove the swirls and scratches, either a medium cut or a compound. Then you're going to use the finishing polish to really maximize the gloss and clarity. Then you're going to seal the paint with a wax. So let's go ahead and do this. And in order to do this, I like to use what I call a tape line. And this is helpful for me because then I can quickly see before and after differences. It's also good for the camera work when we bring the camera to show you what it looks like. So I'm going to start with my first test spot right here. And then if I'm not getting the results I want, I'll do another one down here. So in order to do that, I'm going to take and tape off this section right there. Okay. And I'm going to start out with the advanced swirl remover. And again, this is a medium cut polish, so it's not as aggressive as a compound. And I'm going to go over here to the white foam polishing pad. Now, when you attach these pads to your backing plate, you want to do it in a way that just center the pad onto the backing plate. That's so it's concentric and it's spindled evenly and there's no vibration. The next thing I want to do is I want to take and put some of the product onto the face of the pad. And because this is a brand new pad, I'm going to take my finger and I'm just going to kind of spread this around. This is called priming the pad. And what this does is it's going to put some of the abrasives over the entire face of the pad, push them into the pores of the foam. I'm going to put a little bit on the edges here too, so the edges are not only lubricated, but when we get into these curved areas, the sides of the pad will be doing some swirl removal also. Okay, so that's how I prime the pad, and then I need some product to work with, so now I'm just going to take and put 3 small drops of product right on the face of the pad, just like that. Okay. Grab me a clean microfiber towel, set it up here so I have something to wipe off the residue with. Okay, so now I want to take and I'm going to buff this section up here, and as a general rule of thumb, when you're using this type of tool, you want to tackle a section about the size of a microfiber towel. Now, most microfiber towels are 16 inches by 16 inches square. So that gives you roughly the size of the area you want to tackle at one time. And then what I do when I detail a car is I kind of look at it in my mind's eye, and I break the car up into sections. So I might start in the center and start working my way down or out, and I'm just going to do a section, then a section, then a section, and then a section. And that's how you buff out a car. You do it section by section. You can't tackle a huge area with most tools because it's too much to manage for you. Plus, you want to make sure you do a really good job in the section you're working so all the swirls and scratches are gone. Okay, now another tip here is before you start polishing, take your cord and put it over your shoulder. And that way, when you're buffing, the cord isn't going to sit here and drag up and down on the paint, and that could scratch it. And that would be real important if you've already polished that section. Okay, so I got the cord over my shoulder. I want to check my speed setting, and I'm going to set this down to the 4, not too fast. And I'm going to use a slower speed setting to kind of spread my product out. Once I got my product out, once I got my product spread out, I'm going to bring my speed up because I want to use the high speed to remove swirls and scratches. Then we'll inspect. If it looks good, this would be the product I'd use over the rest of the car. If there's still deeper swirls and scratches, then I'm going to test the compound. So let's buff this section, then we'll inspect. Okay, never turn this on till it's in contact with the paint. And you only have to make this mistake one time to learn this lesson. If you turn this on in the air, it's going to throw splatter everywhere, including you, the windshield, the people next to you, and then you got to stop and wipe all the splatter dots off. So never turn it on until it's in contact with the paint, and don't lift it off until you turn it off and you let the pad slow down. Take it from me, been there, done that, waste a lot of time. So here we go. Spread the product out. Okay, I've got my product spread out, and now that it's spread out, I'm going to start doing what's called a section pass. This is the section, and I'm going to make a series of passes. I'm going to cover this section going side to side, then I'm going to go front to back, then side to side, then front to back. And normally, on a modern clear coat like this, the paint is hard enough that you're going to want to do this about 6 times, 6 to 8 times actually, in order to polish enough to get the swirls and scratches out. And you want to overlap your passes by about 50%. That would look like this. And I'm going to push down also right here, not back here because that would cause me to buff crooked. Right here, I'm going to put about 10 pounds of downward pressure on it. So I'm going to bump my speed up to the 6. As soon as I turn it on, start making my section passes. Okay, so after completing the section passes, next thing you want to do is go ahead and wipe that polish residue off. And a couple little things about compounding and polishing. These products don't need to dry. Sometimes people get confused, they treat them like a wax, but there's no benefit to letting a compound or a polish dry. So you want to go ahead and wipe that off. Here's a technique I like to show in my class also. Before wiping any kind of paint with a microfiber towel, stop for just a moment, visually inspect it, because microfiber is kind of grabby, so it grabs particles. It could be a dry leaf or a dirt particle, and you wouldn't want to rub this over paint you just polished. So look at it, I don't see nothing, but then I'm going to take the extra step and just kind of feel it. And if there was anything in there that I felt was sharp or pokey, I'd want to take and pick it out. Now I didn't feel nothing, so now I'm going to go ahead and just fold this 4 ways. That gives me 8 sides to wipe with. It also spreads out the pressure in my hand. Because remember, we're creating a work of art here. This is not a grinding process. We're going to take something that has a lot of swirls and scratches and really give it a show car finish like this car deserves to have. Now when I go to polish, here's another technique. I want to grab the edges like this and I sandwich them between my finger and my thumb. I lay my hand over the rest of that, then I just make little small overlapping circular passes like this. And when you do that, any compound or polish is easy to wipe off. And we want to be gentle. Clear coats are scratch sensitive. That means even though they're hard, they scratch easy. So you don't want to roughhouse them. Okay, so I've wiped the residue off. I'm going to step back here and grab my swirl finder light and inspect the results. Now here's where I started up here. And of course this is completely swirled out, and when I slowly bring this over to the side I buffed, boom. The majority of all the swirls are gone. However, I can still see some deeper scratches, and so the medium cut polish, the swirl remover, removed the majority of the scratches, and that might be fine for some people, but for me in this type of car, I really want to get out as many of the deeper scratches as I can. So I'm going to go ahead and do a test spot up here. And we're going to try the foam cutting pad and the compound. So let me go ahead and take this section off. Get a fresh piece of tape. And I'm going to leave a little section right here so we can still see the before and after difference. Okay, so now I'm going to take the polishing pad off. To do that, you want to grab the back of the foam pad and then just slowly kind of peel that off. Give the hook and loop time to release so you don't wear out your backing plate and you don't wear out your Velcro on the pad itself. And then same thing, I want to take and I want to line this up, get it as close as I can to being centered, then just kind of tap it on, I'm good to go. Okay, so now for this we're going to go ahead and step down to the compound, so something more aggressive and a more aggressive pad. And I'm going to repeat that same pattern. I'm going to just do some section passes over the front there. First, since this is a brand new pad, I'm going to prime it. Okay, so it just means I'm just going to take some of the compound I'm going to use to polish on the paint and spread it out over the entire face of the pad. And this does two things. It lubricates the pad. It also loads up the pad, all the pores, with the abrasives. And you only have to do this once when you're first starting out. And then of course, as you're working around the car, you want to clean your pad before you add fresh product. And I'll show you how to do that here in a second. Okay, so that pad is now primed. And then I'm just going to add 3 drops of product to work with. I call this my working product because it's the product I'm going to work with. Okay, have my finger off. Then we'll just come up here again, cord over shoulder. I'm going to spread the product out on a slow setting, so I'm going to push this down to the 4. Don't turn it on until it's in contact with the paint. Spread your product out. And you can do this kind of quickly because all you're doing is spreading the product out. When you go to start actually buffing the paint, then you want to slow your arm speed down. Okay, I've got my product spread out. I got a nice uniform layer of abrasives here. Now I'm ready to turn the speed up to the 6. I'm going to use slow overlapping passes, press down about 10 pounds of pressure here, and make about 8 section passes, and then we'll inspect again. Here we go. And a couple tips when machine polishing. One, as you can see, the hood here curves down. There's actually an angled degree here. And when you're running the polish over that, you need to move the body of the tool so it follows that curve. You just can't keep it at the same angle, or this side of the pad would be up in the air. The other thing you want to do is be careful not to make one of the most common beginner mistakes, and that's when you hear this high speed, to try to match your arm speed with the motor speed. And that looks like this. And when you're moving the polisher that fast, all that pad is doing is just skimming over the surface. You're not going to get anything done. So you need to concentrate, and just like you saw me, move that polisher slowly over the surface. And when you're moving that polisher slowly over the surface, here's what's taking place. The abrasives, the pad, because remember that's a cutting pad, the downward pressure, the oscillating action, so this pad is rotating and it's oscillating at the same time, and your slow arm speed. All of these actions are affecting or abrading the paint and removing just a little bit of paint to level it, and that's how you remove swirls, scratches, water spots, and oxidation. It's the polishing process. Okay, we'll set this aside. Come back over to my microfiber towel. I'm going to refold it to expose a fresh side. I already inspected it. And then again, I'm going to grab it like this and just come down here and gently wipe that off. Flip to the dry side, give it a final wipe. I'll pull my tape line off. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to inspect both sides to see which side looks the best to me. And then from there, I can go ahead and do the rest of the car. Grab our swirl finder light. I might need this if there's a smear. Okay, so I always like to start in the ugly. Here's the before section, and that's ugly. Then come down here, and that's what I'm looking for. That's exactly the kind of results I want for a car like this. Not only are the shallow swirls and scratches are gone, the deeper swirls and scratches are gone. And if I repeat this process, this compounding step to the rest of the car, I'll get the same results over the rest of the car that I got right here. Then after that, I'll follow with the finishing polish. Then after that, I'll follow with the wax. As you're working around the car, you're going to get two things that are building up on the face of your pad. Now think about it. As you're using the compound of the polish, it's breaking down and it's removing paint. And just like I wiped residue off the hood, because residue is left behind, there's residue on the face of the pad. And this is the compound, I call it spent product. It's the compound that I used up, so it's spent, it's used up. And because I'm abrading the paint, there's some paint showing up, building up on here. You can't see it because it's a clear coat. But what you want to do, this is called a pad cleaning brush. And what I do is I take and I use my hands to block the backing plate so it doesn't move. Hold this against my leg and then just draw this over the face of the pad and scrape off all that spent residue and removed paint. I can spin it with the brush, get the other side. Maybe get the sides just a little bit. That pad is clean and ready to go back to work. So the next step would be take off the cutting pad, and then I'm going to want to switch back over to a softer pad to do the polishing step and just really make sure my technique is working perfectly. I know it's going to, but let me show you that. After doing 2 test spots, what I found out was to get the level of correction that I want for this car, I really need to use the compound. The swirl remover did a great job, didn't get all the scratches out, the compound nailed it. So I've put my tape line back down where I left it, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the finishing polish, and I'm going to finish this test spot. So I'm going to compound it, use the finishing polish and the wax, wipe the wax off, inspect it, and this is what I call proving my system, the system I want to use on the rest of the car. Now to apply the finishing polish, I'm going to switch over to a black finishing pad. So we use cutting, polishing, and we got the waxing. This is a black finishing pad, and it's primarily used for a finishing polish like I'm going to use right now. So it's brand new, clean and dry. So the first thing I want to do is put some product on there to prime the pad. If you liked finger painting as a kid, you'll like priming pads. There we go. Okay, so I got my pad all primed. Then I'm just going to put 3 small drops of product on here. I'm only working a small section for my test spot, so I don't need a lot of product. Walk back over again, cord over shoulder. This is a habit you want to get into. And then again, turn my speed down. It's on the 4 setting just to spread my product out. Bump it up to 6. Make a few section passes. At this level, the paint actually looks pretty good. I don't need to make 8 section passes. I'll probably do 4 to 5. Wipe off, put the wax on. So let's go ahead and do it. Spread my product out. Then I like to just put one hand right there, keep the pad in contact with the paint, reach my thumb back here and bring the speed up. That way I'm not turning the tool on and off. That could wear out the switch. And then again, you just want to use a really nice slow arm speed. That means move the polisher slowly over the paint. And I'm going to start out pressing down like I did before with about 10 pounds of downward pressure there. But when I get to my last couple of section passes, I'm going to bring my pressure up. I'm not going to press as hard. And this goes back to what I said earlier. Polishing paint is an art form. It's not a grinding process. We bring the human elements of care and passion to creating a work of art. And it's these little techniques that I'm sharing here that makes the difference between a show car finish and a mediocre finish. Okay, I'm bringing my pressure up now. You see I'm not really even pushing down on it, just light pressure. I'm also going to move the polisher just a little bit quicker for these last few passes. Just like that. Turn the polisher off, let the pad slow down before I lift it off. Grab a fresh microfiber towel. Since I haven't used this towel yet, I'm going to inspect it. Visually it looks clean. Feel it. I don't feel anything. Fold it 4 ways. Grab the edges, bring them up, spread my hand out flat, and gently wipe that polish residue off. And that looks incredible. So much faster than working by hand, so safe and so easy. Just for fun, let me grab my swirl finder light. The paint should actually look more clear. The gloss should be higher. We've now done a compounding and a finish polish step. And when I look at it, to me, that looks flawless. There's one more step though, we're not done. You gotta understand, neither the compound or the polish, neither the compound or the polish have any protection ingredients in them. They're just for removing defects, maximizing gloss. To protect it, you need to put something on there that's water insoluble, won't wash off in the rain, won't wash off when you wash the car. So that would be a wax or a synthetic paint sealant or even a paint coating. Today we're going to use the Liquid Sovereign Carnauba wax. And what I love about this product is it wipes off so easy. And I tell you, after you spend all day detailing your car, you appreciate little things like that. Plus it smells good, gives you 3 to 6 months of protection, and it gives you that deep wet shine everybody loves. Okay, so I've put the blue waxing pad on, again, centered it up. Now I'm gonna go ahead and put the wax on. Don't wanna mix it up and put the polish on. And since I'm just doing this little section here, I'm not gonna prime the pad or put a lot of wax on there because I just wanna put down a thin coat at this point of the game. Okay, so there's a little bit of wax. Also, no matter what machine you're using, you never need the high speed to machine apply wax. You just need a low speed. Because at this point, we're not trying to take defects out of the paint, we're just trying to spread an even layer of wax over the paint. So that would look like this. I'm gonna put this back down to the 4 setting. Don't even need both hands. Look how easy this is. To do the whole car like this when you're ready to go to the waxing step. And what I teach guys is we want to go over each section 2 to 3 times, okay? So that means move that polisher 2 to 3 times over each section of paint. And what you're trying to do is leave a nice thin layer of wax. And for this wax, you want to let it dry to a haze before you wipe it off. That takes about 15 or 20 minutes. So while that's drying, I'm going to show you something that I really like for show cars. And that's called a rolled edge microfiber towel. So it has a very soft edge and microfiber gloves. And there's a reason for the microfiber gloves. They actually help you to grip the microfiber towel. And that just makes wiping wax off really easy. So these are what are called rolled edge towels. Not only are they really soft, but the edges are rolled, so there's no seam or any kind of other material. It's just the same microfiber the face of the towel is made with. Now, hang tight, let me go get a microfiber glove, and I'll show you that. These are microfiber gloves. These are so cool. And what you want to do with these, just put them on your hands. And they do a couple of different things. One is if you've ever wanted to, use the car to hold yourself, balance if you're wiping the lower edge, you can do it without leaving a fingerprint. The next thing they do is because they're clean, soft microfiber, you have a clean, soft microfiber towel. It actually helps you to grip the towel. And if you've ever been wiping wax off, sometimes you go to wipe and the towel stays there and your hand flies away. That won't happen when you're wearing the gloves. So whenever I'm working on a show car or anything that's really nice that I've put a lot of time into, I like to switch over to a higher quality towel, the rolled edge fluorescent green towels like you see here, and put my microfiber gloves on. Now it's been a few minutes. I'm just going to come down here and look, and here's something you can do to see if the wax is dry. This is called the swipe test. You take your clean finger and you make a brisk swipe across the wax, and if it wipes off and is completely glossy and clear, that means the wax is dry. If it smears, well, that tells you the wax is still wet. Let it dry a little bit longer before wiping it off. So let's go ahead and give it the swipe test. Boom, completely clear and glossy. So that's the sign I'm looking for. The wax is ready to wipe off. Okay, so again, got my towel, I already inspected it, pulled up the edges. I grab the edges like this and then just softly wipe this wax off. And this is the funnest part of the job. When you get to this point, man, it's just so rewarding because now you're going to see what the entire car is going to look like when you finish the rest of the car. Let's go ahead and pull the tape line off. And then what we want to do is we're going to bring the swirl finder light down here and capture the before and after difference. And then after we do that, I'm just going to kick back into where I left off. So that means I only clayed this side, so I need to clay the rest of the car. Then I'm going to start at the top and work down, compound the rest of the car, then I'll polish the rest of the car, and then I'll machine wax it. So I'll do the same 3 steps I did in my test spot because I proved they work to the rest of the car, and I can't help but get a show car finish. And that's how you do a test spot. So let's take a look at the before and after results, then I got to get to claying the rest of this Chevelle. Now let's inspect the results. When I'm teaching a class, what I like to do is I like to start out showing the ugly. That's the before side. I'm going to bring the light down here. I mean, just it's Swirl City. You can't even see the base coat underneath the clear coat because when you get that volume of scratches and swirls, it turns the clear coat opaque. Okay, now I'm going to just bring it down here to the side I buffed in my test section, and that paint is perfect. And that's the kind of finish a car like this deserves, and the car in your driveway. I can go back up here to the side I just used the polish, and sure, it looks better, but it doesn't even come close to the section I used the compound on. So that is the recipe or the system, the approach I want to use for the rest of this car. I'm going to go ahead and finish claying it, then I'm going to compound it, use the finishing polish, then machine apply the wax, and this car will be ready to go. Okay, I'm finishing up claying the car, and usually it's just the horizontal surfaces that get the most contamination, and the hood, the roof, and the trunk lid are just horribly contaminated in the Chevelle. So I know the paint looks shiny, but that's not an indicator whether there's contaminants or not. You really need to do the baggy test. So I'm finishing up claying the car. The next step would be compounding, but I wanted to just point out that you can clay anything smooth. So if the paint's contaminated, chances are the same contaminants that were in the air that landed on the paint also landed on the glass, also landed on the chrome. So when you're claying, you can clay any surface that's smooth and hard. Paint, glass, chrome, stainless steel trim, hard surfaces like plastic headlights, things like that. And again, if the paint's contaminated, chances are they are too, so you might as well clay them at the same time. And remember, when you're claying, after you finish a section, you have that kind of contamination buildup to go ahead and re-knead your clay. And again, I like to use the taffy analogy, twist it like taffy a few times, and then form it back into a patty again just by kneading it, just like that, and you're ready to go. So the next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead, I'm going to start the compounding process. Now, when I compound a car, I like to start at the top and work my way down. So I'm going to hit the roof, the hood, the trunk lid, then the fenders, the doors, and the back fenders. And when you're tackling a large panel like the hood, what you want to do is you want to divide the large panel into smaller sections. Now, the tool I've been showing you is the Porter Cable 7424 XP. It's a DA polisher in layman terms. And you only want to tackle a section. You can go a little bit bigger than this. This is your average microfiber towel. It's 16 by 16 square. You can go about 20 inches. But what you don't want to do is be trying to tackle too big of an area, because honestly, it's too big of an area for that type of tool. There's more powerful tools that'll let you tackle a bigger area, but the Porter Cable, you want to just kind of stick with a smaller section. So what I would usually do is I would start in actually the center of the panel. So in this case, for the roof, I'd start out here in the center, and then I might move to this section. Then I'm going to come up here, move forward a little bit, move towards me, move here, and just keep progressing, working from the center outward until you get this side done. Flip around the other side, and again, start at the center and work toward the outside of that panel. Same thing with the hood. When I start on this hood, I want to start out here in the center, do this section, then maybe do this section, and then this section, and then this section, then start again right here. Come up here and do this section, this section, this section, and up here this section, and just be starting in the center and working my way out to the fender. Then flip over to their side, and again, start at the center, work your way out. Until you completely have the compounding step done, then you're ready to work down to the vertical panels. Then after the compounding step, of course, then you're going to do the polishing step. So you're just going to repeat that same process. Come up here to the roof, start in the center, work your way out, start in the hood, work your way out, and finish the polishing step. And then when you go to machine wax, it's a little bit different, because instead of working a small section when you're waxing, now you can just tackle the whole section, the whole panel at one time, because you're not trying to remove defects, you're just trying to spread out a thin coat of wax. So it's only the compounding and polishing steps that you want to work small sections. The rest of the car, when you go to the waxing step, it's as far as you can reach, as long as you got wax on your pad and you can still see you're spreading out a thin layer. Just keep on going. Add more wax as you work around the car and you need more wax on the pad. So with that, since I'm done with the claying step, let's go ahead. I'm going to get ready to start doing the compounding step. Well, I've got all the car wax except for this side of the hood, and I want to share another little tip I call kissing the finish. Now, what this means is when you get ready to put the wax onto the car, first put some onto your pad, just like that, and then instead of taking and pressing this down and moving it all over the hood, lightly take it and just touch it down in a couple of places and spread your wax out. And then as you're polishing, keep the back, the trailing edge of the pad in contact with the paint, and then just lift it up and grab that wax like that. Spread it out in that area and keep on going. And that's called kissing the finish. And what that does is it keeps you from loading up your pad full of wax, because if you put all that wax on there and just press it down like that, that wax is going to penetrate into the pad. By spreading it out, you make your wax go further, makes it easier on you. And one more thing, after you finish wiping the wax off, get a fresh set of eyes to inspect your work. Sometimes you may miss a smudge or a streak, and a fresh set of eyes, like your wife, girlfriend, buddy, or neighbor, they'll see the little smudge and point it out so you can leave a perfect finish. Let's recap everything we learned today. First, you want to start with a clean car so you can wash it with the 2-bucket method, the foam gun, waterless wash, or like I did with this car, a rinseless wash. You want to work on a car where you've removed all the loose dirt. Next, you want to inspect the paint, and you want to do it 2 ways. You want to inspect it both visually and with your sense of touch. With your sense of touch, feel the clean car with your clean hand, and also use the baggie test, as it'll really show you what's going on at the surface level of the paint, and it'll tell you whether you need to clay the car or if you're good to go. The next thing you want to do is you want to do a test spot. And this is really important. You want to dial in your process to one small area and prove that it works in that small area before you buff out the rest of the car. And use the least aggressive method to get the job done. Test a fine cut or a medium cut polish before you jump right to the compound. You might be surprised at what you can do with a less aggressive product. Remember to clean your pads often and have plenty of pads on hand. It's faster and more effective to switch to a clean, dry pad versus trying to buff out an entire car using just a few pads. Do the compounding followed by the polishing. Start at the top, work your way down, slice larger panels up into smaller sections for the compounding and polishing step, and then for the machine waxing step you can tackle as far as you can reach as long as you see you're still spreading wax. Follow the directions for the wax. If it says to wipe off after it dries for 15 to 20 minutes, then follow those directions. That's probably accurate for the wax you're using. Use microfiber gloves to help you to grip the towel, and always inspect your towels before you use them. Because at this stage of the game, when you've worked out all those defects, the last thing you want to do is come in and have some sort of particle on your towel that you don't know about, possibly put a scratch back in the paint. And that's how you take and professionally detail a car. And when you're done, it should look just like this. At my classes, this is just one of the tools that we went over in one car. When you come to the full 3-day boot camp class, we cover 6 tools. I bring in multiple cars. And not only do you learn a lot, but you have a ton of fun. I guarantee it. I hope to see you at one of my future classes.